Well, good morning, everyone. Thomas Montgomery. We get together most weekday mornings at 8 o'clock Central, and we're here today to talk about the grant that we received and how we can assist small business owners in accessing capital. So we call this the Entrepreneur Starter Pack. So here on the shared screen, kind of busy, but we're going to break it down. It means it's intended in one page to really describe how powerful this grant is, how it can help others so they can make an educated decision if they'd like to participate in the grant. So, Entrepreneur Starter Pack is the official name of the initiative. However, we often refer to it as ESP for the acronym. It is a new grant subsidized program. It is administered by a legal team. So now everyone that'll be working with clients are either attorneys or at least paralegals. We're going to learn how anyone can access 100,000 plus in funding using the ESP because it provides the essentials. This isn't too good to be true. This isn't some smoke and mirrors. But if you provide an entrepreneur with a fundable business entity and surround it with the credibility factors, commonly referred to as the three C's, we can use that business and go get funding. And that's what we're going to describe today. So the ESP program provides both the Shelf Corp, which we'll go into quite a bit of detail, and 20,000 in QuickCash. That's what makes the ESP, I think, so much more powerful than what our legacy Shelf Corp offering was. The Shelf Corp offering as a standalone is fine, but a lot of people, they just need some cash along with that Shelf Corp. I really like the image, the Entrepreneur Starter Pack. If you give anyone a Porsche 911 like I have and like a lot of you have, and a wad full of cash, we can go start a business, and we're going to provide the tools and resources to help those entrepreneurs implement. So if you are looking to participate, you can go to entrepreneurstarterpack.com. It'll ask you for 4 pieces of information: first name, last name, email, phone, and we can get you plugged in. If you are one of our resellers, then you'll have your own landing page. And so then on your flyer and your materials, your prospects will go to your landing page. All right, so we're going to start with a description of the center, the business formation. So within the ESP comes a Shelf Corp. And what we know is that we need to have the infrastructure, we need to have the foundation of a fundable business to be able to get business funding. So what is included? What is provided with the ESP? First bullet is we're providing a compliant business entity. We need to have a clean, ready to fund business entity, and in this case, it's in the form of a corporation. We also need to have a commercial address. A commercial address is very important because you could have everything else, but if the banks and lenders don't see that the address is credible, that can be a significant barrier. We provide that for free. All the grant participants would pay is just for the mail forwarding. We provide the business plan and the financial projections, bullets 3 and 4. Those are built out, ready to go. Now, if the client, the grant participant wants us to edit those, we can edit those and modify them. There's not a problem. But what we know is a lot of people, they're really busy. And really what they want is the funding and the least amount of time with the least amount of effort. So with the Shelf Corp, the business plan and financials are good to go. But again, we can change them as the grant participant wants. We include 5th bullet, collateral for loans, because a lot of lenders care about collateral. It's actually one of the elements we'll talk about in a minute. We know a lot of people don't have that, so we built that in. We assist them in adding trade lines, true primary usable trade lines, so they have so the business has a strong business credit profile. We'll be talking about that in a moment in a breakout discussion here. We normally need right about 7 days because people will almost always ask, how long does it take? We need about 7 days to deliver the Shelf Corp deliverables to the grant participant. Could be a little quicker, could be a little slower, but normally it's right about 7 days. Now, the reason that it takes 7 days is we need to go ahead and get everything in their name, the entity in their name, the business plan, the financials, transfer the QuickCash. But the answer to the timeline question that often comes up is we need right about 7 days. Now, what's awesome is on that 7th day, when we deliver the Shelf Corp, we are ready to go to funding. So at the same exact time that we're delivering the Shelf Corp deliverables, we're actually filling out the app and using the Shelf Corp and going after what we call the first tranche of funding. The Shelf Corps are designed to be able to be used for smaller, medium, or large capital raises. Now, we need to edit, we need to alter. If we're asking for 50 million instead of 1 million or 100,000, everything has to match up. But the nice thing is the Shelf Corp itself is set up to work for any size capital raise. Highlighted here, second from the bottom, included at no additional cost, is the 20,000 of QuickCash. It's not a loan, it's not a repayment. It does not have to be paid back. And again, that will be delivered right about the 7th day with the other Shelf Corp deliverables. Again, as I mentioned, our approach, it's legal, it's compliant, it's ethical. And with our new staff that's coming on Monday, November 3rd, we'll have a team entirely composed of attorneys, lawyers, and/or paralegals. So that's what's included with the core of the ESP is the business, kind of business in a box. Now, let's talk about these credibility elements, the 3 C's, and make sure that we understand how we can take the Shelf Corp and make sure that it's strong in all 3 areas, because that's the recipe. The formula for funding is to have a good fundable entity as well as meeting the underwriting criteria, which often is built around the 3 C's. So we'll start at the top, credit. Now, we're not talking about personal credit, we're talking about business credit. So what do? We're going to make sure that the business has a strong business credit profile. So there's different credit bureaus for businesses and individuals. Dun & Bradstreet's one of the most significant, and that's the reference here on the second bullet. We're going to make sure that the Shelf Corp has at least an 80 PAYDEX score. PAYDEX scores go from 0 to 100. As long as it's 80 or above, it's considered credible. We're going to accomplish that by adding 4 primary trade lines, real trade lines that are usable. We work with the grant participant. We actually have a business credit coordinator mentioned here that's going to be dedicated working with the grant participant through this process and helping them get these trade lines added. Each individual trade line can be up to 200,000, but again, we're going to work with the grant participant on the trade lines that they want. Trade lines can be company automobiles. I know when we got our Porsche 911, we bought it through the business name. Most of you have business cars. Makes sense to have a business automobile, and it's tax deductible, plus it's a big trade line. They don't have to get company automobiles, but that makes a lot of sense. Business credit cards, lines of credit, so forth. So lots of different options for trade lines. We'll work with each participant based upon their wants, needs, and mitigating circumstances. Question usually comes up, well, do they have to pledge their personal credit, or does personal credit matter with all of this? We have trade lines that do require PG, personal guarantees, and others that don't. We'll work with the participant and add whatever trade lines meets their circumstances. So no, bad credit's not a barrier. So all of this, of course, is facilitated by now, starting November 3rd, Monday, a dedicated person that will work with each of the grant participants on this component, the business credit building. Now, the business credit building actually is part of the funding process, right? Because if you go get a $50,000 line of credit, it's a real line of credit that can be used. But the end goal normally is to go get a large term loan. But when we're adding trade lines, it's kind of like the icing on the cake. They're also types of funding. All right, so we have the foundation of the business, which we've described on the left. We help build out the business credit worthiness of the Shelf Corp. Now let's go down to the bottom left, collateral. As I made reference to earlier, collateral matters for many types of business funding, not for all. And collateral is essentially described as the assets that the business has, which is the business is the borrower, to pledge that in case the business doesn't repay the loan, that the lender can mitigate the risk. It's collateral. So again, we know that in many cases, clients, grant participants don't have enough or much collateral. We provide collateral automatically for free. It's packaged in. And then if they need more, we call that a collateral shortfall. We can get them more. We have an attorney that will work with them on this part of the process. Third and final of the three C's is capacity or cash flow. It's probably the hardest to understand, so let's dig into it for a couple moments. So we need to look at this always from the end goal. What's the end goal? The end goal is to help the grant participant get funding. Well, how do we do that? Well, we need to have a fundable business entity, which we've talked about, we provide, and then that fundable business entity needs to have credit worthiness, not talking about personal credit, but business credit. It needs to have collateral, which we provide as well. But what about capacity, cash flow, income? How do we facilitate that? Well, there's a couple ways actually. The first of which is that we're able to project out, and we include that. Remember those financial projections we talked about, the fourth bullet under ESP? So we provide 3 years, 36 months of financial projections. So that's a good starting point because some lenders will want to know, well, how do you think things are going to look in the future? And even when we're building out our Dun & Bradstreet, they're going to ask, what is our annual, they call it sales, what's our annual income? But they allow us to give projections if it's substantiated. Ours are. So when we're talking about the third C, capacity and cash flow, we almost need to think about it as historical as well as future looking. So from the future looking, those are projections and we include those. But we can also create actual cash flow now so the business has money and has liquidity and looks strong. So what we can do, I mentioned a couple of times, we provide collateral. So that collateral is real. What we can do if the grant participant wants is we can actually liquidate that collateral that we provide. It doesn't take any work or effort by the grant participant, but our attorney will act, and her name's Monica, she starts Monday. Monica will actually liquidate the collateral, the AR that's provided if the grant participant wants. Well, what happens as the grant participant's AR is liquidated? Well, they're getting daily deposits into their business bank account. That obviously makes the bank account look stronger, makes the current financials stronger. So in summary, we have the Entrepreneur Starter Pack, ESP for short, designed to be kind of a business in a box, a turnkey approach, helping entrepreneurs have a fundable business with the three credibility factors: credit, collateral, capacity. One of the most common questions that we get is, well, what if the entrepreneur already has a business? Well, that's fine. We could still use this model for the capital raise. They can keep the business that they already have, or businesses, if it's plural, singular or plural, and do what they want with it. But it's frankly easier for us to follow this recipe, this formula, because it removes or at least minimizes unknown variables. As soon as we start working with a client on their current business, what if it's not compliant? What if it has issues? It's just easier and better for all involved to use this package exactly as it is. And then if they want to transfer the money that comes into their Shelf Corp and transfer it to what we'll call their legacy or historical business, that's just fine. All right, so let's take a couple questions and wrap it up. Again, if you're interested, need more information, anything else, you want to go to entrepreneurstarterpack.com. Brian has a good question. So we're in the process of hiring new attorneys. We've hired two, Valerie and Monica. Valerie and Monica. Both of them start Monday, November 3rd. Today's recording's on Halloween, Friday, October 31st. We plan to continue to hire 1 to 3, 2 on average, new attorneys each month over the next year till we get up to about 25. Really, we'll have to hire based upon our growth, and our growth is really impacted by those of you that are ESP resellers. There's no cost to be an ESP reseller. You're able to market under your own branding. It's white label, private label, set your own pricing. We provide the e-contract and the landing page. We even provide leads. So based upon how active, Brian, you are and others are as resellers, will determine how big we need to grow the team. But we're going to actively grow the organization to match volume, and we're going to prioritize having attorneys, lawyers, paralegals working with the clients. All right, Raphael asked about the collateral. So what we do is very objective based. So when the client comes in, it doesn't matter at the front end how much money they want or what they want it for. Now that it will matter as we go through the process, but on the front end, you don't need to go screen people of how much money do you want or what do you want it for. If that's part of your fact finding for your own benefit, that's fine. But the fundable Shelf Corp always starts with the same foundation, no matter its capital raise goals. As we go through the process, we will be working with them. So we handle all the implementation. As an ESP reseller, you're not responsible for any service or implementation. So with that being said, I think Raphael's point is from the collateral, we need to look at how much money they're wanting to raise, what they're going to use it for. We're providing collateral, they may have collateral, and then we can do a reconciliation. If what we're providing and what they have is still a shortfall, then we can resolve that shortfall. But we really need to look at each client's file individually to determine, do they have what's needed? And if not, it's never a problem. We can provide more. We got several Brians on. The other Brian that's on is asking about the first tranche of funding. The first tranche of funding, again, we expect to apply for on the 7th day in. We expect it to be funded shortly thereafter, just a few days afterwards. We'll get clients offers, cash offers. They'll be able to pick the offers that they want. They can accept one or multiple. We've had over $500,000 of offers from that first tranche, but it'll depend upon the client's mitigating circumstances. Question about personal credit. So we're building this out to have a fundable business, but you're right, some people don't have such good personal credit. We try to minimize that in the overall model, but with our attorneys, if the client needs assistance, which would be free, we can help them improve their personal credit as well. We don't do quote unquote credit repair, but we can certainly assist clients that are grant participants. So with that being said, we're going to wrap it up. I encourage you to go to entrepreneurstarterpack.com, put in first name, last name, email, phone. With that, you'll get more information and you'll be able to participate if you would like. And then if you are a reseller, you will have your own landing page that you'll, of course, drive your folks to. As a reseller, doesn't cost anything to be a reseller. It's not get rich, too good to be true, but you're looking at normally about 50,000 of income to you as a reseller for each participant you refer in, because you make whatever you mark up the front end, but you make 5% on the back end, and our average capital raise is around $1 million. So it's not the type of money that Claude's used to making, or Corinthian, or many of you, but it's extra 50,000 per referral, and we do all the work. So it's not bad. All right. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you back Monday morning. Let us know if we can do anything for you. Have a great day and great weekend. Bye-bye.